So students, this tutorial is on viewing the workspace and opening files. There's two ways to open files when you open up Photoshop. One is to go to File, Open. Never do Open As, that'll confuse you, and you actually won't be able to do it anyway. Find the location where you'd like to open your file from, and press Open, and that'll pop up. The alternative is if you've got the file folder open in Windows Explorer, you could just drag it into the workspace, into here, or down into the project bin, and that'll open it up as well. Next, you'll notice that these windows can be moved around the screen, resized from the side or the corner. I like working with it docked into the kind of enlarged format. So if you grab your window by this gray header and drag it up to this orange line, you'll see a blue frame appear. Once you see that blue frame, let go, and it'll snap to be a full screen mode. This is helpful for when you're resizing images, and sometimes it extends beyond the canvas. The canvas starts at 0 and ends at whatever dimension you set it to be, or what size the file you opened, and the canvas is limited by this frame here. You can change canvas size by going up to Image, Resize, and Canvas Size, and extend the boundary of this image by changing the height and width. So if I want an extra ½ inch all around, I might say the width should be 11.5 and the height should be 9. This anchor point tells you where it's going to grow from. So if it grows from this center point, you're going to get 1/4 inch all the way around. But if you anchor it from a corner, for instance, it's going to expand that space from this corner ½ inch on this side and ½ inch at the bottom. Let's press OK. So you see that whiteness emerge at the bottom. If I press Ctrl Z to undo, and I try that again, canvas size 11.5 and 9, and I center that anchor, then it will expand from all sides. Often in Photoshop, it's important to zoom in to see details that you're trying to modify. And I teach you in class that you can hold down the Alt key on your keyboard with your left hand, and with your right index finger you can use the scroll wheel to zoom in on a space. Now it'll zoom to wherever your cursor is, so if you want to zoom in on these condos here, it'll zoom there. Holding Alt and scrolling backwards will zoom out. Now that's a convenient way. For some students, you'll prefer to do holding Control and the plus and minus sign beside the backspace key. So Control plus plus lets you zoom in, Control minus will zoom out. The way that I most prefer to zoom is by holding down Control and spacebar and dragging a box around the area that I want to zoom and see. So I'm going to drag a box around this world and it will zoom into that level. So you've got three ways of zooming: Alt and scroll wheel, Control and plus and minus, and Control and spacebar and dragging a box to see that space. For convenience sake, Photoshop has a shortcut to let you zoom backwards to fit the entire image on the screen. You do that by pressing Control 0, and that'll fit everything back to this kind of broad view that you can look at, so that you can get into another area of your work. You'll notice in this bottom corner beside the project bin here, it says 33.95%. That's the view state, and you can go to 100% view, or the actual pixels, by pressing Control 1. And that matches up every single pixel in the document with the pixel that's being projected out of your screen. So that's 100% of the view, and it doesn't necessarily show you that you have great resolution, but if you press actual pixels and you zoom really, really close, then you've got tons of resolution and should be good for printing. When you are quite zoomed in, let's say you're zooming in on this tower. If you're very close and you want to, if you're trying to do a selection around something, you want to go down further and you can't see what's down there yet, there's a way to move yourself around the canvas while you're in a very zoomed in state, and that's by holding the spacebar. So you hold spacebar down and you can see that it turns into a hand. When I let go of spacebar, the hand is released and I continue my selection. That works depending on whatever you're using. So if you're using the eraser tool, you can hold the spacebar and drag yourself over. So you hold down spacebar, click and drag, and then you can go to another section of your artwork to see what's going on in there. Now sometimes you won't be opening a file right away. You'll be making a new one. In that case, you go up to File and New and Blank File, or Control-N for shortcut. This is where you get to specify the size in pixels or in inches that you want. So be careful what unit is presented. Oftentimes posters that we make in class are 11 by 17, width of 11, height of 17, or vice versa. The width might be 17 if it's horizontal format, and 11 if it's vertical, and 11 in that case. Resolution, we like to have things at 300 pixels per inch so that it can be printed with clarity. The background contents can be transparent. You can make them white or whatever the background color is. In this case, the background color is still white, so it wouldn't matter. But transparent is sometimes how I like to see it so that I can know where pixels are or are not immediately. And you don't have to name it right away. Color mode RGB is acceptable, and you press OK. So this is what pops up, and you can drag that up towards the orange line to see it maximized. Another way to open a file from something that you've copied is to go File, New, Image from Clipboard. Now we don't have anything on our clipboard yet, so let's select something to be copied. There's a bunch of selection tools, but let's use the rectangular marquee, and we'll do this little window of condominiums here. You can go to Edit and Copy, or Control-C. Control-C to copy that. And now when I go to File, New, Image from Clipboard, a new image file will be made. That's exactly the size of image that you took and that you've copied. It won't be any bigger. If you wanted to expand the canvas size or change the image size to that, you're welcome to, but you'll have to do that after. Now let's say I just wanted to brighten up the scene and then save it as a image again. I could go to Enhance, Adjust Lighting, and adjust the levels. Drag this window over so I can see what I'm doing. And take whatever used to be a black pixel and make those darker towards gray, and increase the contrast by bringing the lightness up as well. Bring those midtones over and press OK. So it used to look like this, now it looks like this. I bumped the contrast. I want to save that now. I'll go to File and Save As, or Control-Shift-S. And the way we name things in our class is with our last name first, Whocash, and then our first name, in this case Mr., and then dash, let's call them condo towers. Now if I leave it with this extension, the extension is the last three letters following the period in a file name. If I leave that extension as PSD, it's got to match up with what the format is. The format here is Photoshop document, which is great, and I can choose where I'm going to save that to. Let's say I'm happy with that location within selecting, and press Save. That's it. It won't ask you anything else. Now you save as a PSD when you still hope to work on that. So for instance, you might add interesting boxes later of different colors, and you might change their layer style and do cool things to it. That's all the process that goes into the creative work of somebody making things in media art. It needs to be saved as a PSD so we can retain those layers. However, if you're done with it, you need to go to Save As again. This time, instead of the format being Photoshop document, you click the drop down and you select the other type of file you want. Usually it's going to be JPEG, but sometimes if you want transparent pixels, it might be a PNG file or something else. So typically JPEG, and you'll see a copy, the word copy get included in this file name, and your extension automatically changed for you. So please change the format first before you retype anything. And we'll save that. It asks you one more dialog box what you want to have happen to that JPEG, how you want it compressed. And we want to increase the quality to maximum either through this slider or through selecting it in here. Even then it just goes to 10. You can grab that and bring it over to 12. And that's it. So generally you just need to make sure the quality is 12 and press OK. And now you have a file that can be put online. It can be emailed. It's small so that it can be easily viewed by Windows previewing, and it's accessible to any computer. Every computer can read a JPEG. Once you're done with your stuff, you can close. If it asks if you want to save changes to the Adobe Photoshop Elements document, this one, the PSD, before closing, we already saved that. So no, we didn't really make any changes. We can press no. And you can close your files here, like so. Do we want to save changes? No. And then you can close up your computer or get to your next class. So that's a brief little tour of how to function in the workspace.